Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by the very busy Matt Festal. Matt, how you doing today, man?
Dude, good. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, Ken. Doing awesome.
Oh, this is such an honor. For you guys obviously don't know this, but me and Matt have been sitting here talking for about a half hour, and this is one of the most genuinely cool dudes I've ever talked to. So, Matt, it's such an honor to have you here. Matt is very, very busy. Like I said, he has had his hands and his ears in so many projects here lately. Had done sound for over 90 projects, guys. Sound design for over 90 projects, as well as acting and directing in Hacked, the found footage for the found footage of Fear. Sorry, my tongue doesn't want to work.
No worries.
And he is also the writer, producer, and sound of the upcoming Shadow Marsh, which you guys know I've talked about a little bit here on the podcast. So I'm very excited about that. So what can you tell us about some of the projects you've been working on, man? I know it's been crazy with COVID, but what kind of updates can you give us about what you've been working on?
Oh, thank you. Again, thanks so much for having me, Ken. This is so cool just to be able to sit here and talk to you about this stuff. But I've been staying very busy. I mean, with COVID, trying to stay as busy as I can. Hacked was a big part of that. We wrote it right at the beginning of the lockdown, started shooting it throughout, wrapped it September-ish, and then got it out right around Halloween, kind of on DVD and Blu-ray, trying to keep physical media going if we can.
Absolutely.
Support that kind of stuff, you know.
And for those of you, the links are down here in the description. We have a link to Hacked down here, as well as all his social media links. You can follow everything Matt's doing. Coming up, Matt has Shadow Marsh. Now, this is something that I'm very, very excited about. Lucky enough to be a producer on. What can you tell everybody about Shadow Marsh without spoilers, obviously?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm stoked about you being on Shadow Marsh too. I think we're gonna make something pretty cool with this one. And and we got a lot of things kind of in the works at the moment behind the scenes. We're doing some revisions on the script, but I can tell you, you know, we're looking at late January into February. We're going to film it. It's about a town that's got some secrets. There's something that there's a great mystery kind of going on there, and there's people missing. There's parts of people being found. There's all sorts of culty kind of things happening, and there's going to definitely be inspiration from a lot of cool old cult films, monster flicks, and then of course, as you and I talked about, like things like Hereditary, a cool heavy drama aspect with grief, with bleak, dark, and that sort of vibe. Yeah, but it's going to be a new kind of take on some of those monster angles and cult stuff and horror. So.
Well, and drama and horror to me have always kind of gone hand in hand, because a lot of horror films can really rip your heart out of your chest as they scare you. Look at Pet Sematary as an example, you know. And to me, I think that when you don't have to always rely on jump scares or nudity or blood. If you have a great story, it's going to tell itself. And speaking of making a great story, we are here to talk about your first horror movie. And your first horror movie, my friend, was
2004's Saw from James Wan. So
Saw. Talking about a great story. To me, this is one of the best storytelling horror movies of all time. I absolutely adore this movie. How old were you the first time you had seen this?
I was like 9, 10, kind of in that ballpark. You know, I was born in 94. So when that movie was coming out, that was the talk of the town. You know, I was young. That looked freaky on all levels to me, and I wanted to see it. I was like, "What is that?" You know, it looked weird.
And the thing about Saw too is, yes, it's a horror movie, but there's a very realistic feel to this movie. How often do you hear about, you know, human trafficking, and how easy would it be to have somebody stick you with a needle and you wake up in a room with a fucking chain on your leg? You know, this is something that's another reason why I love the storytelling of this movie. And like with Zepp, like you think Zepp is the killer, and you have all these things that are revolved around him, and you know he's got those are the rules. You know, they knew how to tell a story here, and I love what they did in this film.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, you're fine, man. I love it.
Oh, it's like what a memorable line, you know.
Oh yeah, and the way you shake, those are the rules. You gotta love it, man.
Yeah. It's
so
just.
Do you remember who you watched it with the first time you had seen it?
Oh, it was my older brother. My brother John. He's 3 years older than me, so he was like, I was 9, 10. He was 13, so he was in middle school. He got to go see it in theaters. My parents were cool with that. I had to stay home. And the cool thing was we were both amped about it because we saw The Punisher, the 2004 one with John Travolta
Yeah.
and Tom Jane, and we got that DVD. And on that DVD, they had a bonus disc that was a Saw bonus disc, and it was all promotional stuff about Saw, and that was how we heard of it. I was like, "What is Saw?" And
That's so sick.
threw that in the DVD player, and there's like 3 trailers on there. One of them's about the reverse bear trap. We watched that.
Mhm.
I couldn't sleep for a few days after that. It was just 90 seconds long. I was like, nope, I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And I think I had mentioned in an email, we had seen The Birds and Psycho with my parents, but I was young. I don't remember that stuff. And so Saw was really the one that was the horror movie. The first one I really was like, oh, this is freaky to me. But like you said, it doesn't even have as much blood as the sequels. You know what I mean? Like in that capacity, the sequels were all going up and up and up and up in that department. But that first one was really like, you feel for Danny Glover, you feel for even like Adam and Dr. Lawrence even a little bit. And it's like, so it like you said, it's really cool kind of different storytelling. And at 9 years old, that thing just literally was like a firecracker and blew my brain up. I just was like, wow, this is incredible.
And I'm with you. Another thing about this movie that's so special to me is I have a 12-year-old son, Kenny, and this was his first horror movie. That's how much this movie means to us. So, and what you're talking about is it's the Randy Meeks school, from Scream. The sequels got to have a higher body count. They got to be bloodier. And Saw really took that. And it became, I hate the term, but it became more gore porn, and towards the end, I've said this many times. If Saw had ended at Saw 3, it would have been my favorite horror trilogy of all time. You'll never hear me say something sucks, something's awful. If you're making art, I'm happy for you and I will support you, but it may not be for me. And a lot of the later Saw films just weren't for me. I thought that they were trying to take a story and now they were just working on twists and gore more than they were a story. So that's why Saw kind of fell off to me. So while we're talking about the first one and the amazing scenes, let's talk about which scene affected you the most.
So definitely that ending twist. We're talking. They're like, so you're on the edge of your seat already because you're like, oh my God, is Adam gonna even somehow get out of this situation? And what's gonna happen here? And then next thing you know, dead guy in the middle of the floor stands up. And I just legitimately that was a freight train that just blindsided me. I had no possible clue that you could do that in a story, that you could have this idea that we've established early on. This dude in the middle that has his head blown out, he's dead. We established it like right away. The characters both see it. They both literally like talk about it. They even listen to these tapes that sort of, and then it's like, and then it flips that on its head completely. So that was the first time I truly like felt what a twist was in a movie. And so that scene just affected me in like ways that I was like scared by it too, because I was just like, oh, like that's horrifying.
Yeah.
that this killer guy was like literally listening to them, or he was, drugged up and just sleeping the whole time, basically like with a slowed heartbeat, and that by the end of it, it wears out and he just gets up and it's all timed out and everything. And it's just like, it's brilliant because, that's like that whole mastermind villain thing of why I think Jigsaw is so cool too. And, they play with that idea that, oh, he's not really killing the people. He's kind of just, he's putting them in the scenario and they're the ones that are ultimately letting it happen or whatever. But, and that's debatable, but it's so intriguing. And so at like 9-10 years old, like while it's an insanely dark and messed up story and outcome, that was like my gateway of horror. It was my gateway of like storytelling of like, you can do that. You can do crazy things out of left field and you can surprise people and like do stuff they don't want to see and hear and just throw them off. So yeah, that just blew my mind. And I remember when the credits rolled and he says game over, I was just like, wow.
And it's heartbreaking because he stands up and you're in shock at this point. You're just like, oh my God, what's, and he's like, the keys to those are in the bathtub. And you realize at the beginning of the movie, that's what you saw go down the drain, and your heart just falls down to your stomach where you had just been punched by him getting up in the first place. The game over. And he's just, Adam's scream as it goes into the credits is just so heartbreaking. Like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing.
I
I'm
mean,
with you. I can talk about this movie forever. It's so brilliant.
it really is, and even with any small shortcomings, one thing that I will always go back to with Saw is it was made for $1 million. James Wan was 27 years old when he directed that film. I'm 26 right now. So when I look at somebody like that, and James Wan is easily top 5, maybe top 3 directors for me of all time personally, just because of that film and because of what he's done ever since. He's just constantly being inventive and being creative in really weird circumstances. Why would I ever peg James Wan to direct Aquaman? No. Did I love Aquaman? I did personally. It was crazy, but it was like I was into it. And so it's just like one of those things where it just absolutely blows my mind. He made that movie for $1 million off of a short film before as like a proof of concept. And him and Lee Winnell were buddies in college. And, it's just like, that is such a cool story to see them make one of the biggest horror franchises ever, pretty much. And
Lee Winnell, for those of you who don't know, also played Adam in the film.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And he's great in it. Like you said, that I mean, his acting chops and his writing chops, it's just like, what a talented person. I mean,
yeah. And I actually, while we're talking about that, I want to talk about, because there's a lot that can pop into your head when you're thinking about this movie. So I want to know, when someone brings up Saw, what's the first thing that pops into your mind when they start talking about it?
Funny enough, the pig mask behind you. One of the things that freaked me out as well early on was the pig mask, and it was sort of that whole setup of how Amanda was incorporated into that story, and how she was kind of possibly helping Jigsaw, not even possibly.
Right. I love it, man. Like, and I think that's one of the things about this movie is all the different things that the art department did, from Billy the Clown to the pig mask. It's just so brilliant.
Well said. I really shouldn't have shadowed Billy the Clown, because there it is too. Right off, like you said, so many memorable things. Real quick, reverse bear trap, and then him coming in on the tricycle. Like, that's just such that wide of him coming in, and the squeak of the tricycle and everything.
Yes.
It all comes together, and his little laugh, and the little, like, so many people are ungrateful, and not you. You're
not you, not anymore.
Yep. And it's just, it's so interesting, and it's so messed up, but it's like this the whole premise of it. You're like, this is so awful what this guy's doing to people. Like, I mean, again, people make mistakes, and those people in these movies, all those characters were, whether they were a lawyer that screwed somebody over, or an insurance guy that screwed that family over. But it's like, man, they're all people. And and it's sad to see some of them be treated, obviously that way. it's hard.
Well, and I got to go on record as saying I am one of the people that will always say Jigsaw is a murderer. Whether you say, if I give someone a loaded gun that's telling me they're going to kill themselves and they kill themselves, I Kevorkian them, man. I'm part of it. So, like you said, they wouldn't have been there. And you look at with Adam, you could say that, Jigsaw gave him a chance. No, he didn't. That key was gone. Game over. He knew that he was going to die when he said game over and shut that door.
Exactly. That way that toilet, or sorry, not toilet, bath plug was there. It was kind of wrapped around his foot, that it was inevitable that guy, when he moved his leg, it was going to yank that thing out.
Yeah.
So, like you said, and that's why I think I kind of said before, it's like, yeah, it's debatable. Because again, I really don't believe that he's like not a murderer. Because it's like, man, you're drugging people. Like you said, you're sticking needles in their necks. You're doing all these like really messed up things. You put that guy in barbed wire, like, and he cuts himself once, he's going to start bleeding. Well, what's that going to do to him? It's like, you put him in that scenario, man. Like, come on. It's like,
so I'm with Die Hard and Gremlins are Christmas movies, and John Kramer's a murderer. I'm gonna stick with those till the day I die, man.
Well said, man. Well said.
We talked about which scene affected you the most. Now I would like to know your favorite scene from the original Saw.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we talked a little about the reverse bear trap already,
Mhm.
Because that was what scared me on the disc so much that wanted me to go check out that movie. But I would say, oh man, the part where Adam's going through his apartment in the pitch black with the camera.
Yeah.
I,
Oh, and
I
he's taking the pictures.
uh-huh. I'm
Oh,
such a fan of that
yes.
because they went the route of that. I'm so jealous that you got to see that in a theater, by the way, because I feel like that scene would have been extremely effective in a theater, like especially if you had a good crowd and it was kind of quiet and everybody's
Yeah.
actually watching it. Because the reason I think so is because that scene, it was not bogged down by like a heavy score. Again,
No.
it's like the classic horror. They let it breathe. They let the scene just happen, and it was just silence and what was happening in front of you, which was that camera flash, which was Billy's laugh, which was picking up the baseball bat and bashing in that puppet, and then it's hearing something in the closet over there, and it's slowly going over there and click. Okay, I'm getting closer. Click, and then it's like, all right,
Yeah.
freaking the door open, and then it's just there's the scare, and it's like
Yes. Look,
when
you
they
know it's coming, but it still gets you.
exactly because and I think some people reference John Carpenter and a lot of the old greats, to do this is that you sort of wait that little beat, that everybody, like you said, expects it, and then you wait that extra little beat, and then you hit them with it real hard,
Yeah.
and I think that's what they're kind of going for, of course, with that, because it was a jump scare, but a jump scare done right. It was all,
Yes.
it felt so real and well timed,
Absolutely. So I got a couple more questions for you. We talked about how Saw was your first horror movie. Now, as Saw as a franchise, which is your favorite film of the Saw franchise?
Original, easy,
One.
number one,
See,
definitely.
I love the first one, man. I love it to death. But I gotta go three. I love the
Three?
storytelling in three with the husband and the wife and the kids. Like,
Yeah.
I love the storytelling of three.
That is
One
a really
obviously
good
is a classic, and I think one will go down in the annals of history as one of the greatest horror films ever made.
wow.
Um,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, look at some of the things that it influenced. I mean, from The Collector to Scary Movies. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I think it was like Scary Movie 3 or 4 or whatever, but whatever.
They
You
definitely
had
did.
that, and you had The Collector and The Collection, which are totally influenced by Saw.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I feel like Saw, like I feel for Halloween. Even people that have never seen Saw, they know that theme song. If they see this right here, they know that's from Saw, even if they haven't seen the movie, just like Michael Myers' Mask.
Very good
So I
point.
think that it's absolutely an iconic film. And I'm very excited to see Chris Rock's Spiral hit the next chapter in the Saw story. I think that they could do some really good things with it. I believe Sam Jackson's a part of it,
Yep.
if
I'm
I
pretty
remember
sure,
correctly.
if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong on this, but I think Sam Jackson, I thought, was playing like his dad, maybe, or something in it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong though. I don't know if that's true, but
If
I'm
it
with
makes you
you,
feel any
man.
better, bro, I was wrong one time in the 90s too. So it definitely could happen again.
And-
So
that was good. And I will say, I cannot wait for that. I'm so
no.
excited because again, and like you were kind of saying, you were like, if they ended Saw after 3, that would be like one of the greatest trilogies. Like I'm with you. Like I love
Yeah.
1 through 3, and I'm a huge number 2 fan. Like number 2, Darren Lynn Bousman, I think is how you say it. Maybe not, but
Yeah.
oh man, the fact he's coming back for Spiral to
Yep.
direct that one, it's like that is so cool because I was a big fan of number 2. I thought that was a great follow-up to number 1.
Well, the
And
first 3 had the best stories of the whole thing, and they had the best kills, in my opinion. And like I said, after 3, they really started to go more for how can we get a twist that surprises you, and how can we get it more bloody and gory. And
yeah,
that's not what I'm about. I'm about the story.
yeah.
So we talked about Saw is your first horror movie. We talked about Saw is your favorite in the franchise. Well, now I'm gonna go scream on you. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Dude, that's so tough.
And I will say this again. I say it on every episode of the podcast.
It can
I
change in a
never
week,
tell
right?
anybody I'm going to ask them this question. I always leave this off the questions because I want a genuine answer. I do not want you to have time to think about it.
Okay, cool. Then I'm gonna go right off the top of my head. Fright Night, the original.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You're
just
so cool,
yeah,
Brewster.
dude, one of my favorite lines in cinema history, right there, dude.
I love it,
Just,
man.
Fright Night to me is just such a great blend of. I mean, my girlfriend's the one who showed me that movie. Like,
Really?
she's an effects artist. She does makeup effects, prop fabrication, costumes, all that kind of stuff. And she's the one that got me into a bunch of the horror movies that I love. And so, Fright Night, we saw that at an anniversary screening with Tom Holland in attendance in Chicago, and it was
Oh,
all
that's
part
so
of it.
cool.
It was incredible. It was part of this Bruce Campbell horror film fest thing, and Bruce Campbell was there too, and it was just one of those things. Like, I was like, well, man, I feel like a fool. I haven't seen this film already. I've heard people talk about it forever. I got to go see it. And this was like 2015 because it was the 30-year anniversary. So
Yeah.
we go, we see it, and I was just like, man, I've been missing out on some cool movies, dude. And because of that one, it got me to go back. Like, and I'm really trying to really dig now and find all these great, classics that everybody's always talked about that I missed growing up or
Yeah.
in high school. Because in high school, that was like Child's Play and Halloween. That was kind of when I got into the big, well-known stuff. But like the little Fright Night, Salem's Lot, like all those little like different types of random
Yeah.
awesome horror films I missed. And so I got them from other people later on in college and now. And Fright Night, man, takes the cake. It's got such great humor. It's got scares, and the practical effects are still some of the best. I mean, that Evil Ed part is
There's a
incredible.
lot of one-liners in that movie that I've quoted my whole life, like the "You're so cool, Brewster," and "You have to have faith for
Yeah.
that to work." Like shit like that. I've quoted my whole life, man.
Yeah.
Like Friday Night's a great choice, and I haven't got to talk about that on this podcast much. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we always end this, my friend, with the same question. We end it with a skull count. We're going back to the original Saw. We're going to rank it on overall production and overall quality. 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. What is your ranking of Saw?
I gotta go 5 out of 5.
Perfect.
One of those things to me is like we touched on before, just incredible use and resourcefulness of like $1 million budget to create something that turned into such a profitable series for horror, and it launched that dude's career. It really made James Wan a name that people looked out for, and people are still always looking at what he's doing now. And I think that's so cool that that a little film like that is in a sense, it was a little film in a sense that it really it shows all of us indies to me. I mean, that's what I point to of like, wow, man, look at that. Lionsgate believed in them enough to give them $1 million and said, make the movie. And they still turned out a well-produced film. I mean, they got some names in it. They got, that set looked cool. Like, you know what I mean? For a little budget and doing a cool, nasty bathroom like that. I mean, they did a great job, man. Like, I love that film.
So
I could talk about it forever, Ken.
Yeah. Then I'm glad you came on. Again, everybody, I want to remind you, make sure you're clicking the links down here in the description, showing him some love on social media. Make sure you're checking out Hacked. I'll be doing a review for that here in the next couple of weeks, so you guys can check that out. As always, my friends, don't go anywhere, Matt. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.